as long as I can remember, my brain was like, I am going to be a pro athlete. It was compelling enough to kind of like keep going and keep going and keep going because, like I said, there was no doubt in my brain that that was going to be the destination.
Taking that perspective um, with occupation and career, there's two books I've read that are contrasting but complementary. One is the book Grit, which used to be was one of our book of the months, which is written by Angela Duckworth, with this whole mindset of being there for a very long period of time, not shiny objects, switching every 5 minutes, sinking in. And they talk about West Point, where there used to be so many people that would just drop out because it was so hard to wake up every day at 5 a.m., have all the military style instruction, but also do academically very, very well, very competitive. And a lot of it had to do with this concept of building grit. On the flip side, we haven't done it as a book of the month, but I'd highly recommend the book Range. Range really talks about the other dimension, which, like you said, where you start having a lot of different experiences in life, and then you get really, really good at connecting dots that are unconnected. And you can see kind of a whole dimension of a picture rather than just narrow. And I'm not saying anything negative about PhDs, but as you go through the PhD process, you have to get hyper specialized to get to the pinnacle to actually do something meaningful with a PhD from a research standpoint. So those are contrasting, and I always feel like you don't want to also have the feeling of, was it jack of all trades, master of none, but also who has the time to go a mile deep and a mile wide, right? So I think there's values on both sides, but from a career standpoint, what I've always said is perpendicular thinking or different types of experiences really give you a perspective of dimension. You said your dad played in the minor leagues and you talked about three different sports and having that passion. When you're growing up, whether it's in high school or going into college at University of Minnesota, how did the dimension, was it 100% hockey, part the Red Sea, only focus on that? Or were there other different dimensions to how you look that may have actually contributed to some of the success in hockey from that standpoint?
Are you talking outside of sports?
Sure. Could be outside of sports. Anything.
Um, I full disclosure, like from a very as long as I can remember, my brain was like, I am going to be a pro athlete, and my parents put a very strong emphasis on education and school and going back to Minnesota, I was very lucky to go, to great schools and great private schools that I got into high school. My mom made me promise her after I turned pro after my junior season in Minnesota that I would finish my degree, and I haven't, but there's still time. Um, but I think to answer your question, you know, I I I I invested so much of myself into sports, and it was what like my true passion was. You made the point about grit and like being able to sort of sustain when things get hard and like power through it. And I think that that's like my vision was so like clear and compelling that any adversities, and I went through plenty of adversities through sports on my way up. It was compelling enough to kind of like keep going and keep going and keep going because, like I said, there was no doubt in my brain that that was gonna be the destination. I don't know why that was, that wasn't told to me, that wasn't trained to me. I wasn't even, like, nudged in that direction outside of, like, my own dad's passion for sports. Um, like, if you would have talked to ten-year-old Blake, "Blake, what are you gonna be when you grow up?" "I'm gonna be an athlete, period." I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you which sport I was gonna play, but, like, that was, like, so clear in my brain, um, from an early age, and I do think that that's where, like, that power of vision comes in. I'm noticing I'm not really answering your question, but I'm just kinda coming back to how important, like, being well-rounded and not just specializing on well, let's just call it hockey, for instance. And also, yeah, I did things like I played the piano growing up. I didn't love it. The vision wasn't there for piano, but I did it. Um, I acted in the school play. I like I said, school was there were things in school that I loved. I loved history. Math was more challenging for me, but I I I I wanted to excel in all areas of life, school included. Um, and I think that that's what I think really helped kind of mold that mentality for hockey as I became very specialized in hockey at a later age in life.